What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Brian Reacts, where I review pro form and amateur form alike to point out what players are doing really, really well and areas that they might be able to improve upon. And lately, I've been focusing mostly on pro form. If you like what I'm producing, please leave a like, please leave a comment. Take the time to read and reply to basically every comment people leave. I really appreciate your feedback, and it will help me improve what I'm producing with the channel. Also, if you're not a subscriber yet, please press the subscribe button. I definitely appreciate that. And without further ado, I'm going to jump into the pro form of someone whose career in disc golf goes all the way back to 2003, Nikko Locastro. And the video that I'm about to watch actually poses the question, does Nikko Locastro have perfect disc golf form? Let's watch, shall we? I'm going to start off with his full speed form. And if you've ever watched pro disc golf coverage, I guarantee you've seen Nikko on camera more than once. He had a really viral moment that happened maybe 4 or 5 years ago, where he hit an Albatross on this unbelievably difficult hole, about a 900-foot hole, where he threw an incredible tee shot and then he bounced his second shot, which is incredibly risky, off the parking lot, basically off the road in the parking lot, and it went straight in the chains for a 2. And he ran down all the way to the basket to retrieve his disc, and at one point he ran up a tree out of excitement. And quite a viral moment in the sport. Nikko has been the subject of countless videos, countless discussions, and I don't know how many people have actually analyzed his form. So let's see what that looks like. Here is Nikko's form at full speed. Let's rewatch that again. Full speed, gone. Just like that. Okay, so is this perfect form? Let's break it down. I'm pretty much in the same spot in Nikko's form here, and as we watch him move down the tee pad, you can see that this is in this super slow mode. Totally intent on the target, leaning forward and hungry. He's got this urgency in his form. You can tell that he feels perfectly comfortable and perfectly in balance. All of his body is directed at a single point in space already. His head does not waver. He's completely sideways. If you watch his X step, he's doing a little bit of a kind of crow hoppy thing where he's off the ground, but it's not to the extent of someone like Aaron Gossage, and it's nothing like James Conrad, who is leaping forward with all of his weight off the ground for a sizable portion of time. And this is a really interesting thing about Nikko's form, because Nikko is not a big guy. His Wikipedia says that he's 5'5". Other sources disagree. They say he's as tall as 5'8". I've actually stood next to him a number of times. In fact, I had a really good interaction with Nikko. Maybe in 2018, I was at an event doing radar coverage for Central Coast Disc Golf, and Nikko was on the card ahead of me, and there was a little bit of a lull in the action, and Nikko kind of just walked up to me and asked me what I was doing, and we chatted, and he said something really nice about the person ahead of me. So it seemed like a really sweet and polite guy, but as everybody knows, he's a consummate competitor, and that informs some of his behavior on the course. But anyway, looking at Nikko right here, you can see that he is perfectly balanced between his feet. This is an ideal position. So again, we're talking about, is this perfection? I'm going to be hypercritical about that because this video is asking that question. Are there little things in his form that he could probably improve upon? Nikko, as far as I know, he has a PDGA number that's like 11,000. He's been playing the sport forever. In fact, he became a PDGA member all the way back in 1996 when he was probably just 7 or 8 years old. He has been playing disc golf since he was a little guy. And anybody that's been playing this sport as a small person has all of these little hyper-focused efficiencies in their biomechanics that are extremely hard to replicate, that suit their body type. So in terms of what is perfect biomechanics, it's going to be a little bit hard to nail that down. He may do a few things in his form that aren't exactly the same as something you'd see in a player like Eagle McMahon, but Eagle is 6'3", and he's got all of these different leverage advantages, and his just flexibility and biomechanics are different. So we'll keep watching Nikko's form here. Perfectly balanced. And you'll notice, like what's considered optimum form, Nikko does not begin to turn his shoulders backwards into his backswing until he's firmly posted on his back foot. You can see this is a really interesting position in slow motion. It looks like he's almost balanced off of a little pole hanging in space here where the disc is. So pay attention as he strides out, and you can see how this creates an anchor point of intention in his body. He's going to stride out from this platform of his back foot, which is very stable, out to his brace point. But the disc will probably not move at all until the foot is completely down. So we'll see if I'm right in that guess. You can see the line right there. Heel down there. And that's the first time you start to see the disc move. So Nikko loading his back perfectly. And I've talked about how you want the angle of the back aligned with the angle of the back foot. That the back shoulder blade and the back foot, if you could draw a line to the floor, that's ideal. People think about how much do you load the upper body? How much do you, quote unquote, reach back or coil or whatever you want to call it? The cue that I really go by, and you can see Nikko doing it here exactly, is you want to get the left back shoulder to align with the angle of your plant foot. If those two things align, you're about as coiled as your range of motion will allow you to do comfortably. And that's probably plenty in order to load the disc and to load enough elastic energy into your body to create a ton of forward power. So you'll notice something really important here. I'm going to remove this diagram and go back to here. There are two things that are giant offsets right now. If you look at Nikko's hip alignment as he's coming down into the brace, his hips basically are facing the camera. They are parallel to the target line. His shoulders have created a tremendous amount of rotational offset. So this is something that Lee and I have long called the X factor in backhand form. It's the ability to create a huge lag and offset between rotation in the hips and rotation in the shoulder. And the more that you're able to create an offset in the mechanics, the more kind of captive energy you get in your body that you can then channel off into the disc when you're braced properly and de-weighted on the backside. Nikko does this brilliantly. Look at this amount of offset. You can just feel the energy bound up in his body. And lo and behold, as soon as I let it go again, you're going to watch all of that energy unload elastically. He's going to be adding with his right leg, which you'll see move first. Hips go way ahead of the body. He's perfectly balanced. Head directly in between his feet. Beautiful leverage position across his body. The disc moves from a low position to the ejection point out here. It actually follows a trajectory kind of like this. And while that may not seem ideal, it doesn't look like someone like Eagle or AB, where they're kind of pulling the disc on a flat plane. Also, Gossage throws that way. Nikko has a little bit of a sort of downward swoop, but Macbeth does that also. And there's nothing inviolate about that at all. In fact, it is a way to often keep your shoulder in the right spot and to allow your wrist to move in the right way too, to bring the disc up, in, and out so that when you release the disc, it's flat, level, and has a downward nose angle, which is what a lot of people are trying to cultivate right now. So watching the end of this swing here, beautifully leveraged across his chest. You can see just how far ahead in front of his body this elbow gets before the disc starts to move away. A lot of people are throwing with the disc moving from the left pectoral muscle, and Nikko's able to get the disc all the way up in front of his body, up by the right pec, before it starts to move away. This is sort of like classic deep pocket Beto drill stuff, and it adds a ton of extra leverage. So he's leveraging this disc with all of his might all the way up until the ejection point. He has a huge biomechanical advantage on the disc, beautifully de-weighted, all of his weight down through the brace, and boom, there's the hit point right there. He's up on the heel just to allow a little bit of extra, I think, opening of his right hip to add a little bit of extra power. Again, there's all these little tiny efficiencies, perfectly balanced and balletic, counterweighting with his back leg way behind him in this very graceful position. Reminds me a lot of how Aaron Gossage looks. And finishing up very, very balanced on his back foot. So the verdict is, does Nikko Locastro have perfect disc golf form? I would say this is pretty damn close. It is perfect, certainly for his body type. He doesn't get really high up in the air. He doesn't take a particularly gigantic X step, but he's very athletic and mobile in his movements. Everything is in exactly right spot. He's perfectly in balance at every point in his swing, and he's able to put so much energy under leverage into the disc, which is why he was known for tremendous power back when he was winning the national championship back in the 2000s and stuff. Nikko is 36 years old. He's still at the top of his game, still, I believe, a 1030 rated player, still very competitive with the best of them. And I'm sure he still has many more wins to come. Thank you so much for watching the video. Again, if you like what I'm producing here, please leave a comment, please give a like, please subscribe, and I will see you next time.